Greetings YouTube and welcome to my latest weapons build. So I've happened upon some scrap and the scrap has inspired me to make something. So I have this piece of steel here and this is the inspiration for this particular project. And what I want to do is I want this thing to become the spine of a Cesties-like weapon. So it's designed for punching and it's going to have some spikes on it. And this is going to be what runs here along, get my fist as close to that end as possible without actually impacting it and making sure I have clearance to grab the grip which I will be installing. And I want to keep it as light as possible. Now this style, this over here, which is my Wasteland Stinger, I love this thing and it's very fast to pick up and use. Unfortunately, this is a big object. Okay, this is just this sleeve, which works really well, is a big object. So I want something that's going to be lighter on this, and I also want this to be more conform fitting to the arm. So I'm going to go with this belt, and I'm going to mount everything on this to the outside. At least, well, actually not, I don't know if everything yet, but this is going to go mounted here, wrapping around, so it's going to pull the whole thing onto the arm from the outside. This is going to be mounted from here and here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little flange here, my favorite word by the way, flange, cut that off and grind this edge down to compensate for that slight angle I'm losing here, because I want to get this face and this face in contact with this face and this face. So it's going to end up being like that, obviously centered. And I'm going to put a fastener here, which will go through there, and that's going to have a spike on the other side, and then I'm going to put 4 of them. It's going to be one there, and then 2. I'll space them out into a nice diamond when I'm done. And then I'm going to cut this down to a point, both to make this a little bit more useful as you could swing it forward and try to hit something with this point here, but also losing some weight because this is a hefty piece of steel. This is a 1/4 inch thick piece of steel. So this is not, you're not messing around with this thing. I'll be using fasteners made from this, which is 3/8 inch threaded rod. I don't remember the thread, could be 16, but I'm not positive. I got a bunch of nuts. I have an entire jar of those. I have some washers here because I need to compensate for that hole, because I'm just going to reuse that hole. On the inside will be a 3/8 inch hole, but on this side I'm just going to use washers to bridge the size of that. All the others here will be 3/8 inch. I don't know what the size on this one. These may be 3/8 inch too, I'm not positive, just to keep the aesthetic going. We'll find that out. I'm going to have to use a plate on top to act as a clamp to hold this in place. This is busted, so I'm going to have to repair this. And I'm going with this because it's got these nice rectangular D-rings, which will mean that they fit nicely against the belt and they'll lie nicely against my arm without having any extraneous buckling and things, because they can lie flat. I'm going to make the handle out of hinges. So the goal is to be mounting it kind of like this. I'm going to cut this down so that only the amount I need, probably just below those 2 holes to get that the right size. So they may mount on the inside to make it a little bit cleaner looking. So on the outside you're going to see 2 fasteners here, and those will probably be pop rivets, 1/4 inch rivets. And then on this end, I need to make a transition, because it's going to be shaped like that. So I need to make a transition that's going to go this way and then in, so I can mount this as the handle. And this was a really bad design I came up with years ago for a project that well, the time you see this, it'll be years ago. It's about a year ago for me. And it just did not work flat out. It was a nice idea, but the idea was not well thought out. So by the time I got to the execution and I went to the trouble of designing it, the whole thing failed miserably. But I'm hoping I can maybe revitalize some of these. I got 3 hinges here that I think that one's probably shot, but these 3 I think I may be able to reuse them, and maybe this handle will be used at some point in the future as something else. I'm not positive on that. But I need to make a transition between this and then I go get an acute angle like that, so that the handle could then ride like where my thumb is on the inside. And I'm going to get it as tight as possible. So again, I'm trying to get my hand, I really want the handle, the grip to be exactly there, right there. So it's going to be tricky. I may have to get some more 3.5 inch hinges. Sadly, I only have one of these left. I have 3 of these left from a purchase I made at a yard sale. Got them for a song, like $2 or $3 for 9 hinges. It was awesome. And some of them were already used in my breastplate armor. If you haven't seen that yet, go check out that video. My first real armor I've ever made beyond shields and bucklers. And so I may need to get another hinge or 2 more hinges, and I probably want to get a matching set to make that transition. But I'm hoping I can revitalize this, because again, this would cost me nothing. Everything in this you're looking at right now is either actual scrap. In the case of these 2 things, they're actual scrap. And the rest is all just reusing things that are already in my shop. So the price point on this whole project is very low. Very low. It's close to 0. So I'm reusing the things that I've already got around, which is, oh so useful. Alrighty, so the first thing I'm going to need to do, besides clean off my workbench so I have some space to work, is to get rid of this, get rid of that, cut that off, and then I'm going to want to come here, and I'm probably going to want to grind that flat so that it comes to a nice crisp edge, because that again could be a potential impact point. Take this off, this flange here, grind a slight angle on there, and see if I can get this to match each other, which would be awesome. And once that gets done and it starts laying out, I'll lay out the lines for this. Since this is, except for this, I think everything's going to be bolted together, so I can do a lot of work, and then I can move back and forth between areas without having to worry I've committed myself too much, because there's definitely going to be the ability to take it apart and then put it back together again. And these points I'm going to be putting on here are all going to be the same length. I kind of like that vibe. And I will put one on the back here. I don't know about here. We're going to find that out when I'm done. Just because both aesthetics and for potential more impact points for a backhand swing. Alrighty, so clear off the bench and suit up my safety gear and then start cutting. Let that piece cool off before you pick it up. Alright, now I'm going to take this over to my stone, my grinding wheel, and my belt sander and clean that up. Not bad. Pretty darn close to where I need it to be before I'm done. And it came out nice and straight. You know, it's almost like I'm getting good at this. So, I just finished using a metal removing disc here on my angle grinder to get that, for the most part, flat. And now I'm going to switch over to a flat wheel to do the final cleanup. Now you might be asking, why do I care if that's flat? Well, I want to be able to use this surface on the bed of my drill press for drilling all the holes, because it'll be a heck of a lot easier to do it here with this on the bottom and drill in this way than trying to set up my drill press with this big thing in my way. So it's a lot easier if I can get that thing nice and flat. So, the flat wheel. Now, one note for safety, I always unplug my angle grinder. This switch is real easy to hit. This thing turns at 13,000 RPMs. I don't want that to happen. That's a really dangerous thing to happen. So, that surface is all set, and now I'm going to figure out where my holes are going to be for the 4 points, and then I can lay out where I want to cut this off, and I'm probably just going to do a 45-degree knock off both those corners. I think that's just going to be fine, and I will not sharpen that, but I may put a bevel grind on it. I haven't decided yet. That's still up in the air. So this is coming along nicely. So this surface is now done, because that's got a nice handy hole already in there. And now I got to work on that one. Okay, quick note. That hole was a pain to drill, because that's how I had to clamp this thing and then hold it very still with my left hand while wearing a cut resistant glove, because there is no other way to get to that hole. Which is why I want to drill the other holes in the other surface with it sitting squarely flat on the table, because I don't want to have to do this 4 times. Now I need to open that up. This is a 1/4 inch bit. It's my best bit, and it's the one that was already in the drill bit. So I need to open that up to a 3/8 now, and then I can start laying out the first hole in the plate, because I'm going to actually drill that, then use that as a visual reference so I can then figure out how I want to drill the other holes in that plate. So that one is done, and the 4 holes I'm going to be using in the front are finished, and I've already figured out roughly where I want to cut the point. So that's what it's going to look like. And the majority of the layout lines are on the back, so you can't really see them. I am going to cut this first, bevel it probably, and then I'm going to do a dry fit, because I want to get, I'm going to have to draw a center line here. Then I want to make sure I get the cross section where I want it, because these are weird measurements and stuff, so it's easier just if I do it by fitting it to tips. Because I've got some slop in there. I mean, that's a big hole, and I only need it to be that big, but it's not. So, but I would like to get it roughly in the middle just for aesthetics. And then I'm going to need to make a plate for the hold down, which I'll just probably make out of a piece of scrap. So I'll go dig up a piece of scrap, make a plate for the belt, and I will drill the holes in the plate for the belt first. And once I get the holes in the plate the way I want it, I will then turn this over Actually, no. I think I should drill it this way. Yeah, I can put that on the block because that's in my way. I'm keeping this, by the way, because it could potentially act as a blade catch. Something comes in, you block it, might catch it. But hey, so you never can take it off. So yeah, so I'll make the plate, put 2 holes in the plate, use those 2 holes that then transfer measurements to this, and then those 2 holes go in. And then it's gonna, after that, it's gonna start looking at the handle, because repairing the belt and then fitting the belt and cutting the belt to length, that's not a big deal. But the main components are really going to be this and this. As far as the holes are all concerned, then I can start working on the handle. The handle is going to be probably an entire day on its own. But I'm going to cut these here next. That's going to be the next task I do, is cut these things off. And I'll save these things because it's a nice steel. It cuts pretty nice. I was really happy with my drill press on its lowest RPM, which I think is 180, but I can't remember for sure. It cut really nice. Used enough lube, you know. Make sure I used a decent scribe. I think this is an Empire scribe, and I really quite like it. It works very nicely, fits nice. The only bad thing is it's got a magnet here, which means it picks up all of the chips that are from my angle cutting. It's annoying, but yeah, so that's next. It's hinge time. So I have cut down these 2 hinges. This is how big they were when they started. This is how big they are now. And the only thing I've done to these so far is open up those 4 holes that will accept a 1/4 inch rivet. So I don't know if I'm using a 1/4 inch rivet, but it's a good thing to make sure that I have my bases covered. So I think, make sure I get that hinge in the right direction. I want it to go like this. That will place my hand right where that hole is, the center hole. And I think that's a good spot. It gives me, it's close enough, but not too close. And it gives me the maximum distance between there and there, which is where the strap is going to be. So, you know, it gives me the maximum level of stability. I don't know what I'm going to do with these yet. So what I need to do is mount these 2, and then mount these, and probably just use screws right now so I can, you know, take things apart as I go, until I finally figure out what I want to do, and then we decide if I'm going with screws or am I going with pop rivets. I have a lot of 1/4 inch 20 rod, and I've got nuts and cap nuts, so I could do cap nuts here, you know, on the outside, just to give it a little polish, because I'm going to have spikes on the top. And what spikes on the side? There are spikes on the side. That's an excellent question. I think I'm going to look into that. I could do spikes in the side. Why the hell not, right? Make this thing really pointy. I like pointy. Alrighty. Actually, that may not work because the flange, I have to measure how, I may have to measure how much this, the right angle piece overlaps this, because you may cover this up so much the spikes won't do anything. I'll have to check that. So now I need to locate these holes here, and that's going to be a little on the tricky side. Oops, because I really need to do it so that essentially that, and I'm going to have to clamp it in place and mark 1, then clamp it in place. Ideally, I don't know, clamp it in place, mark it. Oh, I can't do it from the inside. Can't do it from the inside. How the hell am I going to mark this from the outside? Alright, I'm going to have to drop back and punt on that one. I'll figure it out. And when I do, I'll show you what I did. Alright, bye. Okay, we've hit an impasse. Again, my clever idea has failed to produce a functioning grip. So, all you're looking at there is I just deburred the back of those. You'll never see those marks. I'm trying to keep the patina on the outside looking nice. So that is not going to work. It's a loss. I used these to bolt everything together so I could try it out, and that was going to be in the grip. But again, it just didn't work on for me. Again, I fell into the same trap I fell in the last time. I keep forgetting that if I've got 2 hinges, this is bendy and that's bendy, it's gonna move on me. I don't know why my brain won't wrap itself around the concept that 1 hinge is fine if I put a rigid object between the 2 hinges. So this section could potentially be reused. I haven't done anything here, that's good. But these, I really haven't changed these much, so I can use these for something else. All I did was open the holes up a little. But, yeah, so that's a flop. So I'm back to square one for the grip. The rest of it is coming along just swimmingly, and I did discover that putting spikes in the sides is meaningless. It's too wide here, and it's just, and when you have your hand in there, it won't work. So that's going to be pointless. So I'll just use cap nuts probably, or rivets, one of the two. I haven't decided which. But first I have to design the damn grip. So it's back to the hardware store with this thing in my hand and see if I can figure out a solution. There's got to be one. I just got to find it. I just don't know what that solution is. And I'm hoping it's not too overly complex or difficult. Because, I mean, one of the solutions is to make a grip that's just a D-box. I forget this exists at all. And I just put a strap here, two standoffs and a strap there. I make a bar, a double bar parallel grip that has two standoffs on it, and that works. It's just not going to be elegant, but that may be what I end up doing. And I don't know if I have enough rigid material to do that. Maybe I might have enough rigid material to do that. I've got enough threaded rod, and I think I have enough of that bar stock. So if everything else flops on me completely, that's what I'll do. Because I can't put it on the inside because I've already got the hole set up. So this hole is already, that's the important hole. That lines up here, and then the other one goes there. So these two holes can't be touched. I can't move my impact head. So I would have to put a bar straight across there, two standoffs, and another bar going across the other way. And that would give me a grip. It just isn't going to be all that elegant. I'm going to go to the hardware store, poke it around, and see if I can find a solution. If the answer is no, you cannot come up with a solution, then I'm going to have to do something else. I'm going to have to get a little on the ugly side, which is kind of a bummer, but there isn't a whole lot I can do. My only concern is how do I fasten it? Because my grip ends up being, my hand ends up like here. The center of my hand ends up here. So I can't, I could potentially put holes here, but that means I have to put holes through the entire thing, and that's difficult to do and ugly as hell. But I can do it. It's not impossible. But that means the object's going to have, on the top, is going to have to be that wide to bridge this gap. And then I've got this piece here that was going to be on my original grip, and that will still work. This is the hold down for the belt. So that's good. That's already done. This is still good. This is still good. We're not lost here. This can still be the grip. I'm just going to have to come up with a piece of bar stock that'll be that wide. So you're talking 2 inches, 2-inch bar stock. I'm taking this to the hardware store with me because if I can get away with just buying a one piece of bar stock, that's what I'll do. Because I've got everything else. I've got the threaded rod here. I've got the nuts. I've got the entire jar of nuts. That's not a problem. So I partly apologize for being kind of rambling on this one, and it's very frustrating. I don't like when these kind of things happen because the image in my head is not what ends up in front of me. This is looking great. The striking head looks good. I'm thrilled with the way this is going, but this here, the grip here, is not super smooth. So back to the hardware store. If I can't find another solution, I'll go with a piece of 2-inch bar stock to make a transfer plate on top of here that'll have to go through all the way, which again is uglier than hell. I'm going to poke around and see if I've got anything else I could use instead, because if I could use something else, then that would save me some money and some stress. But that's going to be ugly. That pisses me off. Alright, well, best laid plans of mice and men. So, back to the hardware store. Maybe I'll get lucky on the third try. I would just like to thank past me for looking forward into the future. Why? Because I've got that thing. That thing is going to solve my grip problem. Because this is grip shaped, and that's going to fit right under here without a problem. This is a T-fall meat tenderizer, I guess it's supposed to be. Though I gotta tell you, I think it would be horrible at that job, because while you could use it this way, as long as your counter was high enough, that's not comfortable, and that is not a natural position for punching things. You punch things that way. You know what I mean? And so unless you're Rocky Balboa punching slabs of beef in a freezer, this is a really crappy meat tenderizer design. However, as a grip for my little project here, yeah, this is going to work out perfectly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole. I made a little mark right there already. I'm going to drill a 3/8 inch hole right there. And so when I have the shaft going from, it'll go through this, through this, through this, and it's going to pull all three of them together. Now that's going to put this thing asymmetrically. So the hole's going to go like that in the middle. So the two holes I've got on the sides are not going to be in the middle of that, but that's okay, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of this right here. I think this is going to be big enough. I have more of it if this isn't big enough. And I am going to create an L-shaped bracket so I capture both those holes. Because, I mean, I drilled them, I might as well use them, right? So make an L-shaped bracket that I can then drill a hole this way with a little a tab here and bend it to fit this. It'll be flush here and bend it to fit this angle. I'll try to curve it a little bit so it fits this as best I can. And I'll use rivets here, and I'll use 1/4 threaded rod here to make a bolt, or just use a bolt. I got bunches of bolts so that this thing doesn't torque. Because I'm afraid if I just use that, even though I have these little lines here to rest against, I'm afraid you might get some torquing like that. So if I put an L bracket on both sides, that will keep it from doing that. It'll keep it nice and rigid. So that will take care of the grip down here. All the holes in this are already finished. All the holes in this are already finished. The clamp down bracket for this is already made. So this is going to be the project I'm working on immediately. So first thing I'm going to do is figure out how am I going to hold this thing, because it's not, like I said, you can see it's not the most stable thing in the universe, and I need to drill a hole this way. So I need to find a way to stabilize this thing so it doesn't do that. So I can drill a 3/8 inch hole right through the center. I'm kind of wishing I had a starter. I'm probably going to use a smaller drill just to make a little divot, but I kind of wish I had like a machinist starter bit, and I don't have a machinist starter bit. That could really be helpful to me. I may have to pick one of them up. But yeah, so we're going to work on that first, get that drilled, and then I can do a temporary clamp to figure out my other things. Because once I can use this is the bolt I've been using just for testing things with as I work on this project. I can clamp it in place just with these two things, and then that will let me lay out the brackets I'm going to need much more easily. So yeah, make a little divot and then drill the full size 3/8 inch hole right through here so that bolt, or rather in the future a threaded rod of the same size, will fit through there. So here's my clamping fixture. So I'm using this big ass wooden clamp to hold this so that it is perpendicular to the table, and then I'm using this, which is a Bremen quick clamp, which I picked up at Harbor Freight for like, it was $10. They're well worth your time. I really like this clamp a lot. It works very well. It's reversible. It is a little wider than some of the clamps on the market, but if you're willing to work around that, this is a nice clamp and it's a good price. So that's how I'm getting this to be safe and secure, so it's not wobbling this way and it's not slopping around my table. So it's a two clamp setup. It's a little janky, but you know, it works. So here we have the first bracket done. It's a little rough around the edges, but a lot of the time when I'm building something for the first time, it is a learning experience. Hopefully the second one will go a little smoother. It's going to be a mirror of this. And I will be leaving this bracket here, and I've also discovered I can't use pop rivets because there's no way I can get a pop rivet gun into that space. It's just too tight. So I'm going to have to use either bolts or threaded rods. I'll have to decide which I want. This is going to be, when this is done, there'll be, obviously I'll have this thing much shorter. It won't be sticking out like that. But this is just to pin things in place while I'm working on it. For example, that bolt is not going to be the one I'll be using when I'm done. It's going to be a threaded rod, so it'll only be the thickness of that nut sticking out. So my hand will fit in there. At the moment, it's quite uncomfortable. But that's going to go there. I'm going to do another one here, which is, I still have to lay out the 2 holes here and drill those out, and then start the process of bending it, shaping it. Again, hopefully I'll do a better job the second time. And I'm probably going to have to curl that tip in just a smidge. Yeah, just a smidge. But yeah, this is how it's going to look when I'm finished. I kind of like that vibe, the whole overall vibe on that thing. And it's not perfect, but again, we are going for a post-apocalyptic aesthetic. That is the vibe I'm doing. And I had to end up using a slightly larger piece of this than I had originally hoped. The piece is actually that wide, but the other one, it just was not going to have the right shape. So I used one of these, which is just that wide, and I have a bunch of those, so it's no big deal. And I only needed to use one of them for both brackets, so not much was wasted in that. So that's kind of cool. This material right here, these little plates you can get at hardware stores. I love these things. I find them so damn useful, but not just for weapons build, but just for everyday ordinary stuff. You can shape them and put them into places, and they're just a great size and thickness for general homeowners. Highly recommend you go get yourself some of these plates and just keep a bunch in your house, because you will find uses for them. Alrighty, so now I need to take off this and that. Leave this here for right now, and I have to reassemble it. And then I can lay out those 2 holes and then bend it and then figure out where I want to drill the second hole, because I just drilled right through there. I just put the bracket in place and just drilled it right through. I felt that was the easiest way of achieving my as close as I could get to an accurate fit. Okay, so do a little disassembly, do some more layout, some more drilling, and finish processing this, and then start figuring out what I want for the fasteners for everything on this end. This is going to be the end I work on first. So these are all the points I'm going to need. These 2 for this, those 4 for here. I still have to assemble it, and I got to make one more, which is going to be for the top. I haven't done that one yet. That's the final one, but I want to get these sorted out first. Then I can make the other one. Alrighty, and this is already assembled, and I decided it doesn't really matter about these screws. It doesn't, because I'm putting that handle in here. Where's my handle go? Here's my handle. I put my handle in like there, so you're never going to see them. They're never going to be exposed to my skin. So what do I care how long they are? So those are done. I've assembled those. Those are assembled where I want them. I knocked the corners off the top just to give it a little bit cleaner look. And so that's finished. So I don't have to worry about that anymore. So now I just have to worry about this stuff here. And I can't really do that final one until I get some assembly finished, and I want to have these points finished before I do that assembly, if you get my point. So now it's time to put points on it. So I've set up my angle grinder here, and I'm going to put these into my power drill, and then I'm going to just put some points. Let's see what happens. Well, folks, here you are. This is a bit awkward for me to do. I'm doing it one-handed, having to turn the camera around with one hand, because I've got this in my other hand. And this is the completed project. And this thing is, kind of goddamn dangerous. There will be stills to show you it in detail, but there are pointy things all over this. The grip is very comfortable, and this strap is a little uncomfortable on my arm, but I will be wearing this with a full coat, so that should not be as much of an issue. I won't really be filling it. I'll be wearing this with a full-length horsehide duster. So yeah, that's part of my cosplay. But this thing, this Power Fist, that's what I'm going to call this, inspired by the Power Fist from Fallout 4. This Power Fist is really dangerous, and it feels wonderful. You want to hit things with this, and it's got a blocking capability with these points as well as a backhand capability. So yeah, absolutely wonderful. Go show my wife, then I'm going to take some pictures, and I'm happy. It was a long project, 3 weeks, but well worth it. Had a good time. Came out very well. Glad I was able to find a solution to my handle problem. So yeah, awesome. So if you folks don't follow me on Instagram and DeviantArt, you should. That's where I host my permanent pictures, my permanent stills on DeviantArt, and I have my Instagram where I post things I find and bargains and weapon builds and sneak preview pics sometimes, and of course cute cat pictures. And who doesn't love cute cat pictures? So I hope you've enjoyed yourself today, and I hope that you'll come back the next time. And I'm going to grab this thing with my left hand because it makes it easier to turn the camera off. So thank you.